And we are back on the chosen baseball journey with the two best facial hairs in the business, Karim Garcia, Jonathan A. Cohen. Karim, you could tell when we've taken a little bit of a break between our tapings when all of a sudden both you and I show up with facial hair.
Yes, I mean it's getting close to Christmas, and it's getting colder over here. So now we have to get a little beer going around, Plus, I look like Santa Claus now. Mine is white, white, white.
Well, you and I, we do therapy sometimes. So can I give you a confession?
Sure.
Okay, so did not grow in my beard for over 2 years at least. And the reason why I was doing that was when it's growing in very white in so many places. I said, I don't like the white. And I researched. I said, I'm not going to get the box from the drugstore. I'm not going to do it myself. I'm not going to walk around with a dripping black off the side of my face. I have actually seen men that I'm sitting there in a meeting and they dyed their hair and you can see it dripping, the drip marks on their skin. Doesn't look good at all. I found a professional place. I found an artist in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and he specializes in men beards. And it was over an hour. He was doing it like perfect, perfect, perfect. So, only thing is, you have to match it. So, the secret for men, if you want to have the best dyed beard, you have to make sure what's the color. And the problem for most men is they think, I want black. I want jet black. That's my color. Never do black. Why? When you dye it, medium brown, it comes out dark brown. If you do dark brown, it turns out black. If you do jet black, it turns into midnight black. So always go one or two shades at least below. So when we were done mine, I said to him, I like it a lot. We did like medium brown. I still would have done one or two lighter. So this is exactly 2 weeks after the job. You can see the white is starting to grow in a little bit.
Yeah,
But I was at a dinner and everybody thought that was my natural beard. Nobody thought I dyed it at all. So when you can't tell, that's a good job. So some men's dyeing beard advice for today.
absolutely good.
Yeah.
I just don't care. If I go white, then no problem for me.
You know what? If my name was Karim Garcia and I played for the New York Yankees, Dodgers, and almost 20 years in MLB, I don't think I'd care either. So difference in life. A couple of guys who also don't seem to really care are guys who are rolling in the hundreds of millions of dollars and have some new hardware to add to their collection. It's funny, we talked off air before we started, but when we were supposed to tape this episode, it was right the day of the MVP announcements. And life turned out that we couldn't tape that day. So this was a bonus for us, Kareem, because now we get to talk about all the award winners. I say let's start from the top, work our way to the bottom. So discussions always begin and end with the MVP.
Okay.
Which league would you like to start with?
Let's go with the American League.
American League. So you know that I had my fantasy baseball teams. The one that I won the top prize with, number one, I had pick number 5 or 6 in that one. So I picked 5 or 6. I got Aaron Judge with my first round pick. And in April and May, Kareem, I was crying. I don't know if you remember Aaron Judge in April, May, but it was not pretty. And when all the voting and everything was done for this, there was a part of me that thought for a second, you know what? Soto was very consistent all year. Juan Soto, Bobby Witt Jr., it's a nice story, everything. But I figured, you know what? Soto will give Judge a little bit of the run for the money. They may split the vote a bit. That's not how it went down, did it?
Not even close. I mean, Judge had a horrible April, but after the first week of May, I mean, he just was a different player, a monster. I mean, he was hitting home runs left, right. The batting average went from 190 to 320 something at one point. He hit almost 400 in 1 month to actually turn around his season, and the average, the home runs, the RBS came along, and he had a monster season again this year.
No, it was beautiful, beautiful numbers. And you look at the final numbers. Like I was watching him every single day on my fantasy stats. And when every day he's giving me 3, 4 points at least, it's good times. Yes, he plays in that ballpark. Yes, he has the protection in the lineup with Soto. Stanton had a pretty good year, but Stanton had his ups and downs. Trust me, he joined and left my fantasy team at least 5 times last year. So, Judge, in my mind, had good protection, but look, they struggled. Verdugo had a great month and a bit, but 1 to 9, when you think about it, at the end of the day, you take Soto, you take Judge of that lineup. The Yankees were a very, very, very different team. Now, the guy who finished second, I didn't see this coming. He got all the second place votes. Bobby Witt Jr. Why am I not giving this man enough love? Like I look at the numbers, I look at the player, I'm like, this is a very, very good player. I get it. But to me, Soto was miles above, but apparently all the voters disagreed with me. Where do you stand on it?
I mean, Bobby Witt, what he did for the team that he plays for, the Kansas City Royals, which they did make the playoff. He has a man carrying a whole team. With Soto, he has Judge, Stanton, Chilson, and a couple other guys that can help him out, to put up those numbers. Plus, Yankees sometimes in their stadium, the games go, 5, 6 runs ahead each way. If you're winning for 5, 6 runs, you hit a home run. It really doesn't matter. Every time the Witt hits a home run for his team, it actually matter because they're always, fighting. They actually probably play more close games than the Yankees did. So that's why I'm giving it the second place to Witt too.
Well, a guy who does not get enough love, and I think he's going to make the Hall of Fame one day, Salvador Perez, their catcher. You know what? He's aging like fine wine, this guy, as a catcher. Wow. And you know what? He's given some pretty good protection at that lineup. Like you take a Salvador Perez, you put him in the Jays lineup, you put him in the Yankees lineup. Like I, in many ways, he's their MVP as well. But Bobby Witt Jr., I hear what you're saying. Doing it almost on his own, getting that small market team into like the whole idea about the MVP is the MVP the person who's most valuable to that team, or is it the person with the best stats? Like, how do we calculate this? Because I struggle with that a lot.
I think you calculate it, but it's the most valuable for the team getting you to the playoff, you know, because Bobby Witt is almost by himself doing this stuff. I mean, like you mentioned, Salvador Perez probably hit like 20 something home runs this year, and he got a good stats. But I mean, as a catcher, it's a good protection, but you don't have anyone else. And with Judge, you got Soto in front, I mean, behind you sometimes, in front of you sometimes. You got Stanton, you got Verdugo, you got Rizzo, you got Chilson. I mean, you got other guys that can help you out. You stuck. And the other side, I mean, is pretty much you hoping that they pitch to you so you can actually do some damage.
And there was a part of me that said, Soto, he's, you have to watch him every single day to really appreciate just how good this guy is. Like you look at the numbers on the surface, and you look at Judge, you look at Soto, and you're like, Judge, look at that OBP, look at that slug, look at the runs, the RBIs, the walks. Like overall, when you look at the overall basket of numbers, Judge is just slight years ahead of these guys. But Soto had some great, great numbers, obviously, but he's just so good. He's so consistent every single day. He doesn't seem like he takes an at bat off, and it's gonna show when he gets paid. I mean, we're gonna be talking about that in another week, but I think Soto has nothing to sneeze at finishing third, but he is going to get MVP type numbers in his bank account when all is said and done.
For sure.
Now, when we look at the National League side of things, this kind of shocked me. And I don't know if it shocked you, but it shocked me. I actually went back and looked at this. Did you realize that there's no MVP full-time DH until Shohei Ohtani?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really surprise me as much because the DH hasn't been as long as it has been in the American League, in the National League. So I can understand that part. I mean, it's when uh, Ortiz, Big Papi, won the DH with the Boston Red Sox. It was probably the first one or the second one ever. So now Otani is the first DH, full-time DH that wins it.
Well, look at the numbers. I mean, the first ever 50-50 season. I don't know if there's humanly possible what this man could have done more than he did. I mean, every ounce of abilities he put out there. And by the way, when he decides to be able to go back to pitching when he's healthy enough, he's Cy Young caliber. Like the man is literally on another planet. I mean, you think about it at his age and where he's going, the amount of MVP awards this man is going to win. Like right now, if Otani took this MVP award and said, "Listen, folks, you know what? For health reasons and family reasons, you know what? I'm done with the sport. I just don't want to play baseball anymore." Based on his body of work up till now, and you consider like the Curry Pucketts of this world, Roy Halladay, when people got into the Hall of Fame, didn't have the full careers. I think Otani right now is a Hall of Fame caliber player. When he's said and done, they're gonna make a whole wing for him. Like they have the Babe Ruth wing, they're gonna make a Shohei Ohtani wing at Cooperstown.
He will get to the Hall of Fame for sure. He has the rank to show it now. Now he needs the playoff numbers to go along with it too, you know. He already has the all the awards that you won, the MVPs, the home runs, the stolen bases now because Ellie De La Cruz beat him. But other than that, I mean, the guy has won everything during the season. He already won a World Series. It's just that the numbers for his playoff is not completely there yet. And he will have a chance. He will have a chance for the next 10 years to compete again and be in the playoff almost every year, if not every year.
I mean, you compare Bobby Witt and Shohei Ohtani, right? Look at the lineup protection Ohtani has. Look at the lineup protection for Bobby Witt. You put Bobby Witt in the two-hole Ohtani spot. Bobby Witt is loving his life, obviously. Like, there's nobody on this planet that had more lineup protection this year than Shohei Ohtani. Like, Mookie Betts, Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith. Like, it goes on and on and on. Like, they had 4 or 5 MVP caliber players on their team. So, from that end of it, you think of Ohtani, he has to overcome that climb, and he still produced the numbers, right? And he did it as a DH. If I'm Marte and I'm Lindor, I'm thinking to myself, why couldn't this guy just stay in the American League? Like, why did he have to come here? Because you take Ohtani, you put him in the AL right now, one of those guys is winning the MVP award, clearly.
Yes, absolutely. And now, if Otani was on the American League, who would you give it to? Otani or Judge?
I was just about to ask you that. So Ohtani is on the Angels still. He has the exact same 50-50 season. Between him and Judge, if I have the vote, I'm
I
giving
give
it
it to Judge.
I'm giving it to Ohtani.
The thing is, one of them made it to the World Series, the other one not even make it to the playoff.
Well,
So if you
well,
actually
well, if you put the
put,
50-50 season on Ohtani, maybe the Angels make the playoffs. No, sorry.
yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, no,
Let's talk to Garcia about that one.
And from a base stealing perspective, I was actually reading about this 2 nights ago, but you look at pure base stealing, if you look at the percentages of the caught stealing, I will argue Otani's less stolen bases than De La Cruz. He's more valuable because he got caught a lot less. I think De La Cruz got caught 14 times or so, and Otani only got caught 4. But, look, the way they changed the bases and the pickoffs and the number of attempts, baseball brought it onto themselves now that they made it, I'm not going to say so much easier, but clearly stolen bases are through the roof. So a guy like Otani 5 years ago is not stealing those number of bases. Like back in the Jose Canseco 40-40 year and how baseball was played back then, does Otani get 50 stolen bases?
Very difficult because I would have thrown 5 or 6 times to first base, making sure that he's close to the base. And nowadays, you only got 3 times. I mean, 3 chances, and that's it. So it gives you more opportunities to go and steal a base.
In today's modern game, Ricky Henderson, Vince Coleman in their primes, how many stolen bases do they get? 500?
Bro, in a year,
Ricky,
Ricky
maybe.
probably had about 180 on his prime
Yeah, but in today's game and how the game is set up, I would tell you that Ricky would easily break 300 stolen bases.
on a year. Wow, that would have been really impressive. But I mean, I would say 180. I was going just a little bit above, not that big.
Well, Marte had a great year for Arizona. Lindor, great season for the Mets. it was just one of those things. They knew they had no chance. Like as good as their seasons were, they're going to be afterthoughts. And in 5 years, no one's going to remember their seasons. Only going to remember that Otani 50-50 season. That's the reality.
Unfortunately for them, yes, it will be that way.
So coming to the American League, Manuel Clase, also part of my fantasy team. Great
Really.
year, great year. I mean, that guy was just money in the bank all year until the playoffs came, and playoffs is a different creature. But Tariq Skubal, man, I wish I had him on my fantasy team. He was one of the only pitchers this year that I don't know, he had barely won maybe two bad games, like quote unquote bad games. He was so consistent every single time out. He won the pitching triple crown. He was beautiful to watch. Got the Tigers into the playoffs. He was the winner, hands down. I agreed with that one 1,000%.
Yes, I mean the guy deserved it. He puts the Detroit Tigers back into the playoff over there. I mean, wins 18 games to help the Tigers. And the Comerica Park, the stadium for the Tigers, it's a pitcher's park.
Yep.
So I mean, but he did his job. It doesn't really matter because he only pitched half of the time in that stadium, and all the time you're gonna go to the other stadiums where maybe it's a little more hitters friendly. He did a great job. I mean, and winning the Triple Crown, it helped them. Plus, both pitchers from the American League and National League, both of them win the Triple Crown.
Mark my words, Scooble, Yankees, provided he stays healthy, it's going to happen. 1,000%. He's tailor made. They're going to love this guy. They are going to need to eventually, as Cole gets in on years, they're going to need more pitching help. Scooble is the kind of guy, but look, there are 30 teams that need a Tarek Scooble. So everything with pitching, I hate that we have to do this every time, but it's going to come down to health every single time. That's all that's going to matter. The guy's going to have to stay healthy. I thought Class A is going to finish number two. Just such a dominant season as a reliever. He did not.
Seth Lugo.
Seth Lugo was sitting on the waiver wire constantly on my fantasy team, and nobody believed in this guy. And something about pitching in San Diego, and you come out of there, and you know what? Kansas City, sneakily, they get these guys in and they get the numbers out of them. Lugo had a beautiful season at the end, and he did get the number two slot. Go
Yeah,
figure.
man. He won 16 games. With that market, that's pretty good. You know that you're not going to get a lot of run support over there. So you try to keep the runs, the run average really low, 1, 2 runs per game. This guy did a great job, and that's why he's second place. Class A with Cleveland is a different story.
Yeah, but he got he was a top reliever. Obviously, he got the Mariano Rivera Award. But you
Mhm.
know what? In 20 years, maybe there'll be the Emmanuel Clase Award. They may have to change it, but no, I'm kidding. Rivera is on his own terms.
Yes.
Looking back in the off season of 2023 going into 2024, the Red Sox make a trade. They finally unload Chris Sale. They get a great prospect in Vaughn Grissom. Atlanta takes him. Alex Anthopoulos. Go figure. And the sale. What does he have left in the bank anymore? And you know what? Was this such a great trade? They're taking on this salary. All he went and did was win the Triple Crown himself and was the Cy Young Award winner. Watched some of sales starts, very, very steady, stayed healthy for the most part. Looking at his competitors, you know what? I thought it might be closer. There were a lot of people that speculated that, if Skeens is going to win the Rookie of the Year, maybe he was so dominant, he's going to win the Cy Young too. But my gut told me it was going to be Sale, and it was Sale.
He was Sale. I mean, he deserves it. Triple crown winner too. Um, Plus, I think the Chris Sale needed a change of scenario. He's been in the American League. He was with Chicago White Sox. He's been with Boston Red Sox. He's been with a few teams. And now going to the National League with the Atlanta Braves. With for some reason, every time the pitcher that you don't think is going to do better gets to Atlanta, all of a sudden they blossom and they get even better than they were before. Why? Because probably their guru pitching coach over there does something different for them. And, these guys all of a sudden clicks into their head, clicks into their game, and they get better.
And also the fact that Sale's done this for so long, and this was his best season ever at his age and his history record of injuries, you had to give him the Cy Young. Like he earned it. He did earn it. But if this was, let's say, 27-year-old Chris Sale versus today, it's like if he doesn't get the Cy Young now, he's never going to get it. So at some point, you do have to give it to the guy. So I think everything factored in. But if Skeens had 10 more starts and kept those numbers, we'd be talking Paul Skeens Cy Young right now.
Yeah, but the Skins, they Pittsburgh did the right thing for them. They waited, they hold him off until they thought that he was ready to come to the big leagues. Because you know what happened with Baltimore, and you rush your top prospect, all of a sudden you have to send them back down and really call them back up. And the Pittsburgh Pirates did the right thing when they call us Skins up at the middle of May.
Well, listen, man. In both of my fantasy teams, I picked up Shota Imanaga in the last round. Okay, so let's put it this way: if Jackson Holiday is sitting there in the second last round or so, he's gonna be on my team too. Trust me. And Paul Skeens was funny. Paul Skeens in both of my fantasy teams, people kept picking him up, waiting, watching his start in AAA. He's not getting called up. They kept dropping him. I had good insight when he was going to make his last start. Both
Mhm.
were available. I picked him up on both leagues. I sat on him for a whole week and I benefited from all the statistics. But you know what? If I was listening to the Pittsburgh manager Shelton the other day and they're talking about is Paul Skeens your opening day starter in 2025? He was talking on MLB radio. You know what I would say? I would say, let's see him make the team first. Let's see him make the rotation first. That's what I would have said. But look, Paul Skeens is obviously their opening day starter up until free agency at this point. So
Mhm.
let's skip ahead to rookie of the year because at the end of it, we should give an insight to Zach Wheeler. By the way, Zach Wheeler, great year for the Phillies. Obviously, Mets are still crying about losing him. He's been nothing but consistent. But he ain't Chris Sale, he ain't Paul Skeens, and he was kind of that middle type guy, but still a very good season. And 30 teams would take Zach Wheeler in a second.
Absolutely.
National League Rookie of the Year. The most interesting category, I would say, it was such a great field. Like three solid guys. In any year, those three guys could have won National League Rookie of the Year. Absolutely. You got the Jackson brothers, right? You got
Yes.
Merrill and Churio. Churio, I had him as my starting outfielder in April in one of my teams, in my fantasy teams. He was killing me with those strikeouts and lack of walks. And I said, this guy needs another year of seasoning. So back to the waiver wire you are. After the All-Star break, I always forget about this. There's guys that walk into spring training in the best shape of their life, and the guys with the best second half.
Mhm.
Jackson Churio had a big second half, did he not?
Yes, he did. Absolutely. He actually turned it around right away too, after the second half.
Yeah, he just like it heated up and he was great. And it's funny, somebody told me once, and you can tell attest to this. If you come from Cuba, the Dominican, right, and you're used to these hot tropical weathers, when you play in North America in open air stadium like Detroit, the White Sox in April, it's not that fun, is it?
Not at all. When you play in Detroit, Cleveland, Baltimore, New York, the April is probably the worst feeling that you have through the year because it's cold, and it's probably going to snow sometimes in early April too. And I don't mind the snow. I do mind the feeling of the grabbing the bat to swing and getting jammed every single time, with a 95 plus fastball.
So MLB Network, they convinced me. I was listening in and they were having a debate about the rookie of the year in the National League. When you consider Merrill was doing it from day one and how consistent he was and how many at bats he took and playing the field and Skeens, the lack of innings at the end of the day, as far as production goes, it's hard to discount that. I know how dominant Skeens was, but a lot of analysts can't get past the fact that he just did not play a full season, not even close. And for that reason, Merrill or Churio would be the rookie of the year. So if you had the vote, Karim Garcia in the National League, who would you award the rookie of the year to?
I think to Jackson Merrill, he got a great year with the San Diego Padres. He 24 jacks, 90 RBIs. They made the playoff. They almost beat the Dodgers. I mean, they got him on the ropes, and he's in a lineup where he can do some damage. But again, he's not the only one because he got a great lineup with him. With Machado and Tatis and the other guys, Boger and all those guys. But I mean, he's to me, he was the National League Rookie of the Year if Skins would have come up.
I'm gonna do the conspiracy theory thing, but from MLB's perspective, you think about it, who's the most talked about guy on social media and who gets young fans excited? Paul Skeens. Do you know who Jackson Merrill's girlfriend is? Because I don't, you know?
No.
They even have a baseball card that's coming out autographed by both Skeens and his girlfriend, right? Paul Skeens is very good for the face of baseball to attract fans. He's the superstar in waiting, and he's walking away with hardware for nothing else but that. I hate to do the conspiracy theory thing, but that doesn't hurt Skeens. If Skeens is not having that personality and not having all that fame and talked about through all the attention he's getting, I don't know if he's getting that award.
Uh, the guy is gonna win Cy Young awards. The guy, Skin is gonna win Cy Young awards no matter what because he has a triple digit fastball. He has the splinter, or the splinker, whatever you call it. The guy, long as he's healthy, he's gonna win all the stuff. And I mean, you mentioned it, Major League Baseball. He is a face, just like that this was at one point, that the face of Major League and the other guys too. Now this is the new guy, they have over there for the face right now to put him. So they're gonna explode that part, because Pittsburgh is a small market. If it was in New York or in any other the big market team, Boston or LA, I mean, this guy was humongous. National League, unanimous decision, no problem. Whatever it was, National League or American League.
I don't know if you heard this one, but the Pirates have put it out there. There's a baseball card, a very, very important baseball card, one of one for Mr. Paul Skeens with the patch. And if
Yeah,
you win it, they're going to give you 30 years season tickets.
yeah.
So if I get that card, I'm moving to Pittsburgh. I'm going to watch Pirates games all day long, apparently.
Oh, I get this. I get the car. I'm selling it right away for 30 years.
But Jackson Churio, like we're gonna go based on the Karim Garcia theory. Paul Skeens was the only guy who didn't make the playoffs, by the way, because the Churios and Murrells of the world did. And you think about the Brewers and think about they lost their manager. They lost one of their top starters. Devin Williams was gone for about half a year. And Churio was there all year. And, for a lot of it was very consistent. He, as a rookie, was the stabilizing force in the middle of that lineup, got them to the playoffs. I think that should earn some rookie of the year votes, just the same way as Merrill did. The Padres, how he's had that talent, but Merrill is one of the most consistent players on the team, and he was the rookie.
Yeah. I mean, cheers with Milwaukee, got a quick sting on the playoff. They in and out, unfortunately for them, but I mean, it is what it is. But you're right. I mean, he helped them out to be there, even if they changed managers and they went through a whole process of learning the new guy and the way that he wanted to play and show, how it was done in baseball for him to do so as a manager. I mean, he did a great job. I mean, he has a good numbers, not better than Jackson, but I mean, they're pretty good.
On the American League side, with the rookie of the year, this was the closest voting, and this was by a nail. A lot of people thought Cowser was going to win the Rookie of the Year. They were convinced. But you know what? Watching as many Yankee games as I did and watching how good he was for the most part, I know he got tired by the end of the year and he's been around for a bit, but he still kept his Rookie of the Year eligibility. Luis Gill was a force for the Yankees and he was my Rookie of the Year. So I was surprised it was as close as it was, but a lot of people thought Cowser was going to win it. Where did you
Yeah,
have this race?
Colton Cowser. No, I had Hill too because he was the horsepower for the Yankees. Because when what's his name went down for a little bit, Cold went down for the Yankees a little bit, and then all of a sudden they start having problems with the pitching, the starters. This guy was consistent as it can be, and that's why the Yankees were able not only to make it to the playoff, but to go all the way to the World Series.
You think about it, I would say he was the most consistent starter all year, you know, and for a team, that big money team, and just a lot of question marks, in the rotation, Stroman, didn't even make the roster at the end of it. So well deserved. I was surprised he still had eligibility. It feels like he's been around forever, but it's because he only played a little bit, got hurt, but he has been around for a bit. Hopefully, health stays for him. But Cowser has nothing to sneeze at. Great year. He's going to get paid. Baltimore also has a pretty good lineup. It's very interesting to see where Baltimore is going to be at now, considering everything. They're going to get Batista back. They're probably going to lose a guy or two in free agency. Now they have a new owner. In my mind, where Baltimore's at, they have all this young talent. You got to go out and get some pitching arms now if you want to take it to the next level.
Or sign the ones that they have right now, at least for a couple more years until they grow something on the farm for them to actually put them back in the major leagues. So they have the opportunity right now to do a couple things, but all depends how strapped they are with the money is what they're gonna go.
And Austin Wells, we kind of forget about him and with all
Yeah.
the big names in the Yankees, but he's just consistent, just consistent, just consistent. And so that can get you votes too. He didn't get, the allure of an Ohtani, of a Judge, but Yankees definitely needed him.
Yeah, absolutely. He did a great job behind the plate for them. And I mean, he was consistent hitting where I got a couple home runs here and there. But I mean, all of a sudden, this guy, he was clutch. He was clutch for them. And at the end of the season and in the playoff too, he got a couple big hits.
And this is where you think about the playoffs and you think about the American League. The joke is always the Central, that it's the weakest division,
Mhm.
that, it shouldn't be one team that should come out of there. Well, not just one team came out of there, three teams made it to the playoffs from the Central, and
Yeah.
all the managers all those playoff managers were the finalists for the Manager of the Year award. And I struggle with it because ultimately it's based on the team, how the team does and everything else, but how the manager pulled the strings. I don't know about you, but I watched Tigers go and have a fire sale at the deadline. They didn't load up. They were playing freaking bullpen games between August and September and made the playoffs and were looking pretty good candidates to make the World Series at one point. Why is AJ Hinch not the manager of the year?
Probably because what he did with the Astros, and he got 1 year, 2 years, out of baseball because of that. Other than that, I mean, people remembers what happened, and this is still fresh. This is back in 2017, probably, and now with the Detroit Tigers, it's a fresh start. Everything else, but the people still, remember little things like that, and they probably hold a grudge. Maybe, maybe not. That's what I'm going. I mean, he did a great job with the team, and they made it to playoff. And I thought that they were, uh, if they played the Yankees, I mean, that would have been incredibly difficult.
And this is one of the things that I also struggle with when I think about it. You think about the Yankees. Now they did make the World Series, but the playoff voting, the playoff results don't count. But they still did had a really great regular season. They had a big payroll. They had a lot of injuries, but it seems like manager of the year, it's what were you able to get the most out of with the least amount? Small payroll, small talent base, and you pulled as much out of them as you could, and that's the way it seems because Dave Roberts. Anybody with a big payroll, I think it actually gets penalized for this in a way. But look, we were very surprised, and I didn't think about that, but it makes a lot of sense to me because without the scandal part, I feel like Hinch did a lot more with a lot less compared to KC, compared to Cleveland, for example. But all three had great years. Vogt had, first year manager also. By the way, first year manager, your rotations in shambles, inconsistent hitting, and the Guardians just stayed in there, stayed in there, stayed in there. KC, I would say had the most amount of talent out of this, but they still executed and they were a great and fun team to watch. So
Yeah.
in my mind, any three of these managers could have won the award, and I would have been okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, they deserve it, but I mean, like you say, probably AJ Hinch, out of all three of them, would have been the best, choice. But again, I think that people still remember what happened back in 2017, and they still have, hold them to it.
And on the National League side, while I appreciate where Murphy went and he got the award and the Brewers played great and they always seem to like they just have this from the coaching staff and their management and they bring in people and it's amazing what they do with their payroll. But the Mets had a high payroll, but nothing was expected of them. People said this was going to be a year that they're going to be kind of in between, and guess what? They had a really great year. They could have made the World Series as well. I would have given the award to Mendoza.
Absolutely. I think that the Mets, halfway through the season, people thought that the Mets were done. They were gonna, rebuild again. They were gonna sell everyone, and they're gonna give the chance to the young guys. All of a sudden, the Mets start winning, winning, winning. Nobody thought about the Mets until middle of August, the beginning of September. All of a sudden, oh, these guys actually they're playing to make it to the playoff, and they did make it to the playoff, and they did a great job. I think the manager and coaching staff did a phenomenal job, coaching these guys and tell them not to get, either nervous or a little crazy, desperate, or anxious. Just continue to do what you're doing, believe in yourself, one game at a time, and you're gonna, get better. And they did.
And I'm kind of stuck on this, but like San Diego, it feels like they've had so much talent, big payroll for so long. Was it clashing personalities? They just were very underachievers. Mike Schilt, like Mendoza, got a big payroll, got a lot of egos in there, and San Diego was pretty consistent all year. They were my pick ahead of the Dodgers to make it to the World Series. So also, Schilt didn't win this award, but man, he had a hard time. Like, you know what? He came in with I would say like behind the eight ball in the sense that they've underperformed for so long and he got a lot out of them. Like Machado had an MVP caliber type season for the most part. They had a great pitching staff, their bullpen's incredible, and he got everybody to perform their role. So Schultz could have easily been the manager of the year for me as well, but Mendoza to me was just one step above because it's that much harder in New York, and I think he had less to work with. Like they had the high payroll, but less talent, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes. I mean, they had a high payroll, but absolutely. Plus, I think San Diego, they kind of struggle a little bit to me. My perspective outside, because I'm not in the clubhouse or anything like that, is just that they have a lot of problems with their egos, with the players, the egos, the personal egos on the guys. They I don't know if you can see they don't pull together all of them as a whole group. They pull together 4 or 5 guys, that they hang out, but not the whole team. I don't see, I don't know why I get the feeling that only, 3, 4 guys, they only pull for each other and the rest of them is just whatever it is.
Well, it's just one of those things, I guess. But you know what? It'll be interesting going into next year. And that's where we're going to stop today's chapter because next week we're going to talk about. I want to mention two big, big free agents. One of them being, of course, Juan Soto, another one being a pitcher, and how this will change the game and will it result in the Yankees Dodgers rematch next year in the World Series. So we're going to make our predictions. Stay tuned. This is the Chosen Baseball Journey.